You say that you want love. You say that you're ready for intimacy. And you say that you're tired of feeling alone. But if you're honest, like if you're really honest, you're only showing up when you feel like you're in control, right? When you know the outcome of the scenario, when you're sure that you're not going to get hurt, or when everything feels like it's predictable and safe. And you want to call this love, right? You want to call this intimacy or connection. But what you're really practicing though is control. And control, as much as it feels safe, is actually the enemy of intimacy. But let me pause a moment here and ask this question. Why do we cling so tenaciously to control? I mean, why does it feel so necessary? Why does it feel so comforting or so safe? I think it's because control gives this illusion of protection, right? And if you see, like if we can control the situation, at least we tell ourselves this, if we can control the situation, we can protect ourselves from the pain or from the rejection or from the abandonment, right? From the disappointment that we're sure to experience. But control feels like a shield, if you will. It feels like this sense of armor. It feels like safety. But here's the truth. Control, it doesn't protect you from the pain. It just protects you from intimacy. Because real love requires risk. Real love requires surrender. Real love requires you to show up with your whole heart, even when you're scared, even when there are no guarantees. And that's terrifying. Because if you show up with your whole heart, there's a possibility you can get hurt, right? You can be rejected, you can be disappointed, but you can also be loved too, and you can also be seen, or you can also be chosen in that zone. And you can't have one without the other. You can't have real love without real risk, right? They kind of go in tandem together. But stick with me just a little longer here, because I still want to talk a little bit about what it actually looks like to surrender to love without losing yourself, and maybe even how to start releasing your grip on control in a way that feels safe enough at least to stay open. But let me talk a little bit about control. See, control, we said, feels safe, right? But it does come at a cost. See, when you're always trying to control how you're seen or how you're loved, how you're accepted, you're not really showing up as yourself in those settings. Instead, you're showing up as a version of yourself that you think will be approved of by others. You're managing perceptions that others have of you. And you're, in some sense, trying to edit reality. And deep down, you and I know that, right? You know that the love that you're receiving, if you're receiving it at all, isn't really love for you. It's the love for the performance. It's love for the mask that you're wearing. And that's why it feels so distant and so hollow. That's why it feels unsatisfying. And that's perhaps why you're so lonely. And even though you might be in relationships, on the surface you might look good, but it doesn't hit the core zone. You're there, but you're really not there, right? And because you're really not there, you're not really known. And because you're not really known, you're not really loved. You're just being accepted or tolerated or approved of, but you're not seen and you're not cherished. You're not chosen, right? So, what do we do about this? How do we start letting go of that control without feeling like we're setting ourselves up to be hurt? Well, I'm a fan of starting small. Let's start with small steps, like small micro practices of surrender. So, what would it look like to share a real feeling instead of the polished version that you often offer? Ask for what you actually want instead of what you think is acceptable, for example. Or let yourself be seen in your messy, scared, uncertain zone without rushing to try and clean that up, right? It's not about throwing caution to the wind. It's more about going slowly and gently and expanding your tolerance for vulnerability in small increments. It's about learning that you can actually survive being real, that you can survive being seen, and that you can survive by not being in control. And that on the other hand, or on the other side of all this, survival is something that is better, that is waiting for you, and that is deep connection, authentic intimacy, genuine love, not the hollow performative kind, but the real kind that actually sees you, not just the role that you're playing, right? But here's what no one really tells you, and that is you can't control, well, you can't have control and intimacy at the same time. You can have one, or you can have the other, but together, you can't have both. See, control keeps you safe, but intimacy enables you to experience realness. Control keeps you armored, and intimacy makes you feel vulnerable. Control keeps you alone, whereas intimacy has the potential of bringing you home. And the love that you're craving, the kind that sees you and holds you and chooses you, it doesn't live in the territory of control. It lives on the other side of surrender. But here's the invitation I want to leave you here at the end of this podcast. Loosen your grip. Let go, not all at once, but and not recklessly, but intentionally, like courageously. Loosen that grip and let yourself be seen. Let yourself be known. Let yourself be loved. Not for the performance that you're doing, but for the person who you are. You don't have to control everything. You don't have to manage every outcome. And you don't have to protect yourself from every possibility of pain that you might imagine. See, you can survive being real, and you can survive being loved. And you can most certainly survive intimacy. And not only can you survive in these zones, but you can actually be transformed by it as well. See, the life you're longing for, the connection that you're aching for example, the love that you're craving, right? It's actually waiting for you, but not in the control zone, but in the surrender zone. And if this conversation, if this episode has opened something up in you that where you're reflecting, I want you to check out my other episode. It's called You Want Her to See You, but You Still Can't Face Yourself. And in that one, I dive deeper into the courage that it takes to be real and why that's the foundation for true intimacy. And as a bonus, if this conversation has impacted you, I just want you to know there's more on the way. There's spaces where surrender is not a weakness, but a doorway to the life you've been longing for. And I want to spend more time with people who are committed to that outlook. So stay tuned, keep watching. I appreciate you being here.